Hey, this is Vu, and today I'm going to talk about the passive application of pressure. That is, applying pressure on your opponents by not doing anything when they know you can. This is probably the most discussed topic on my stream, and the most obvious difference between good and great players. Applying pressure is an aspect of game sense that's incredibly important, and most people do realize in a general context. If you're fighting someone and they know that you're back plat box, of course a pressure is being applied as you're fighting them, and maybe a rotation is going to be pulled over because you are pressuring the B bomb site. However, I'm thinking here about invisible pressure, and this is something where by not doing something, your opponents have to assume that you could do it at any moment. A very obvious example is if you are splitting a bomb site. If you're doing something like a 4-1 B split and your opponents know that, for some reason they know four people are coming from middle, the worst possible thing you could do is die as the solo tunnels player. All you really want to do in this type of situation a lot of the time is make some contact, find out where they are, and then not die. Even if you never showed up, even if you never peeked from tunnels and you were lurking long, this player would have to assume that the tunnel split is very likely to be coming and you could peek out at any moment. So as long as you do not die, they have to play angles that are safe from tunnels and focus on the mid B split in a different way. So they might play an angle like this, knowing that you could come from tunnels at any moment, and they're kind of trapped. As soon as they make contact, they're in not the greatest spot, and they can't necessarily come around the box because, again, you could be posted on them from tunnels very easily. If instead you were to make contact and then re-aggress and die, this player can now play an angle like this, where they have a good angle for the player coming from window. They can also peek towards doors quite easily, and they have a lot more mobility and a lot more comfort knowing that only one side of the attack is going to come in anymore. This type of pressure can be applied in many different ways and in many different circumstances, but I'm going to show you a couple of clips where it's applied in specific fashions that you can definitely bring into your own gameplay to become a significantly better player. I really do think the application of pressure is the difference between good and great players, so hopefully this can make you better. So if we look at the situation here, Complexity is going for an outer execute, smokes are all over the place, and they've run into a bit of trouble. They haven't been able to make their way onto the bomb site. You still have Flit alive on Ivy, but look what Complexity does here. They go completely silent. They stop making any contact whatsoever, and Fours now has no information. For all Fours knows, Complexity could be just about anywhere, or at least a couple man stacked at inner. I'm not sure they ever spotted the bomb, and very easily Complexity could be going up ladder to try to go inner right about now. So they actually do need to get some information at some point, otherwise they'll be forced to run something like a 2-2 split, and their outer hold will not be very strong. So Flit, as this smoke Ivy goes down, instead of going into Ivy where maybe a player is, he's going to try and go through that Ivy smoke, and he's going to get caught off by Config simply holding an angle. Jerry now, in the 3v3, knows that they are very likely in outer, but again, Complexity has gone completely silent, and although he did actually just see Config there, unfortunately couldn't spot him out. Without that information, Complexity, again, very easily could have made their way back into T-Con. Very easily could have made their way into Ivy, gone back around, and gone inner. So he's going to look for some information, and Jerry does this in a very clever way. He knows that Complexity may very well be holding for this information. They may be doing exactly what they're doing, but he's still forced because of the pressure, because of the reality that they had to even rotate Exapower over towards inner to worry about that inner push. So he's looking for that info. He will get a kill on a poison as Complexity made a bit of a mistake there, not watching every single angle, but he will get traded back down. Config will get himself another kill, and this time they actually do make their way over towards inner. Now we have a round that is similar to something I'm sure everyone has experienced. Olaf went and put a bit of mid pressure, tossed down utility, and then his team went for the A site execute. Now he has become the Lurker, and in the Lurker role, he's going to find himself a kill as Amanek is trying to rotate. The question here is, what does he do now? The reality is that as long as he doesn't die, G2 is going to have to assume he could very easily be flanking. He's never been used in the initial push, he's near middle, and G2 has no information on middle, which means they will permanently be worried about his flank before they start the execute. And what that really means is that they are very likely to delay their retake to make sure that he's not going to be flanking, and he has two options. He can either make his way back over to his team and go back around to A, or he can delay his flank, wait for G2 to potentially look away from the flank and stop worrying about middle, and then he can make his way over. You're going to see that Olaf actually chooses option number 2 here and goes for a very late flank after Nexa stops worrying about it. Of course, Nexa can't worry about it forever, even with the pressure there permanently, and Olaf will get a triple kill to close out the round. But you can see how the pressure applied forced G2 to constantly be worried about the flank, and in doing so, they delayed their retake, and Olaf's super late lurk actually was a bit of a mind game. In your own games, you probably want to just make your way back over towards a ramp and not go for this type of timing play, because oftentimes it will blow up in your face. However, this is certainly something you can try out, and as long as he is not spotted after getting that initial kill, they constantly have to be worried about that invisible pressure that he is applying, that he could be anywhere on the map that is reasonable for him to get to from top middle. So again, this understanding of the application of pressure on the opposition simply by not being spotted or by not doing something rather than actively doing something to apply pressure is something that great players understand in spades, and it's something they can use to get themselves kills. You see it here with Olaf, and you hopefully will begin to see that in your own gameplay as well. Instead of always trying to be the aggressive player that's making contact, you can make contact and then go silent and force your opponents to react themselves. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. Dun-na. 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 Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun